Once again, we back at it on the bridge with Kyle Santillian, where we build and communicate and collaborate all things hip hop. And today, we got some brothers in the building that are ready to help me make that happen.
Indeed.
Celebrating a new project coming out. Step Brothers 4 is on the way.
Step Brothers for life.
Yeah, Step Brother 4 life. Let me not leave the life off that for sure. Yo, Starlito and Don Trip, appreciate y'all brothers for being here, man.
Almost definitely.
Thank y'all. Now, I know y'all got pretty much of a cult following. Like, y'all audience loves you. You know what I'm saying? The vibes that you provide for them, they've been with y'all for a while. But for the people that are just now maybe getting introduced to who y'all are, what do you think it is about you two as a tandem that has caused so much admiration amongst hip-hop fans?
I think it's the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I think anybody tuned in, you're not confused. You wouldn't tune into a record or a video or interview or whatever and still wonder what kind of person we are.
Facts.
So to speak. Not to say you would know everything about us from it, but I think a lot of times in entertainment, we kind of get lost in the character that a person play. And when we meet that person, whether it's an actor or a musician, when you finally meet that person, it's it's night and day.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that works for us. We're not pretending in any shape, form, or fashion. Like it's gimmick free.
The word that comes to mind when you're talking for me was authenticity.
True that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think also creatively, we got like a complementary synergy, and that's kind of rare. Like in our generation, we grew up on a lot of like 2-man tandem groups.
Yeah.
That were complementary in their own regard, but I always felt the ones that I liked the most were always so different. And I think that we're more alike than different in the space of like being lyricists.
Mm-hmm.
But our music, like individually, is a little different. But when you put it together, it just works.
Create something special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bridge is all about like connecting the same way that you just mentioned that you guys do as artists. But you mentioned having some respect and admiration for 2-person groups from back in the day that kind of inspired some of those things you might have listened to.
Yeah.
Who would you name?
UGK, Outkast, A-Ball, MJG,
Yeah.
Bill Mob.
Definitely all of those.
Two.
Run DMC, Kris Kross, Styles, and Jada. Even though it's truly a 3-man group,
right?
They just share the I don't know what they call it. I call it baseball, but they do it the most often.
Yeah.
I was also a fan of. Say it again.
I just said the back and forth.
Yeah. The back and forth. Redman and Method Man.
Facts.
Yeah.
And we got Clips.
I like the Young Guns. That was Rockefeller.
Indeed.
The Clips, like you said, yeah, definitely up there.
Yeah.
You mentioned a name that most people don't even throw in these conversations when we're talking about inspirational groups, at least. Kris Kross.
Yeah.
Now, we know they had an impact on the game, for sure. Like, they came out, they did what they did, it had an impact on the game. But when people are naming... No, because this was so ill, because I ain't never heard nobody put Kris Kross in the same list and conversation that you just did with Jada and Styles P.
Got to, though.
And Outkast. You know what I'm saying?
That's where I started. When I saw Kris Kross, I started this with my brother.
Okay.
When we saw Kris Kross, it was too many similarities. So, and you got, I don't know how old they are, but first, my name is Christopher.
Okay.
So that was already, that just made it lifelike. One of them was light skinned and one was dark skinned. My brother's a darker shade than me.
Okay.
So it's that shit just worked. So as kids, that's who we mimicked. We mimicked Kris Kross. We knew all the records.
Yeah.
It was this is back when your grandmama called you in and when all the family gatherings and do that dance and that song y'all do. We was Kris Kross. Even for a second we had we only had like one or two the cross colors, the overalls
The
and shit.
jumpsuit, the overalls, yeah.
So for as long as my mama would allow us, we used to wear them backwards like they was. Even when we had saw them on A Different World.
Mm-hmm.
So when we saw them on TV, like they was larger than life for us. So I thought I was gonna become a rapper the next day, but I wanted to become a rapper from that. That's what spawned the idea. I was listening to NWA and Tupac, and I was listening to all of that, and it was it's adult driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea never spawned that I could be a rapper. I watched them, and
you saw them, and you kind of saw yourself and said, "Oh, I could
exactly."
Be like,
when I saw kids doing that, I was like, "Shit, you can do this as a kid?"
Right.
Yeah.
So that sparked the idea to be a rapper. It didn't happen for years, but that's where it started.
Facts.
I can remember like doing some Kris Kross routine at like a birthday party, like talent show kind of thing. I remember it's like a vivid memory of I was probably in elementary school. When you say routine, you was on stage rapping their songs, dancing? No, I mean like it was like a birthday party, and it's like everybody's doing like a very informal talent show.
We was rapping the songs.
Right. Yeah, it was rapping the Kris Kross song and doing the dance that they was probably doing in the video, in a music video kind of thing. It kind of triggered another memory of Kid and Play. I would put Kid and Play in that same mix.
Definitely.
Like they reminded me of like older cousins of mine or something like that. Because Kris Kross was closer to our age at that time, but like Kid and Play, like even with House Party, like they in high school in that movie. Even Class Act, they in high school. So it was more aspirational. Like I can see myself there sooner than later. Than like you said, like whoever else that was popping at the time that were adults would have thrown probably Mobb Deep into that conversation.
Absolutely, for sure.
Of the 2-man rap group. But yeah, it's those, like I said, bridging the dated references. This is when
Capone and Noriega, one of my favorites.
CNN, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's so interesting that I find is that when we were coming up with all of the groups that you named, there were some older rappers, but I think we were still young enough as a genre that you respected the rappers that were a little bit older. Now, at this age of hip hop, there's a whole younger generation of hip hop that doesn't know that their fathers and grandfathers had hip hop artists to look up to. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to explain to a younger generation of hip hop the influence sometimes and how great some of these older artists were in their era. Like, how do I tell my, and maybe y'all can help with this, like, how would I explain to my 15-year-old son exactly how dope Big Daddy Kane was? Or exactly how dope Ice Cube was in NWA when he thinks he's an actor from Are We Almost There Yet?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, is there a way that you guys have found that when you're trying to communicate some of your influences to somebody younger in a genre that you can get that point across? Is there a way?
I'm not sure, because it's that, like that saying goes, like, you wasn't there.
Yeah.
Some of that applies. It's like the appeal, the effect that it may have had on us in real time. It's not possible to bottle that up and share it. Like, one of the things from our album, I feel like, is nostalgia. We talk about dated things, references is near and dear to us and our upbringing, or just reference points. If you weren't there, you didn't experience it, it's not gonna probably mean the same thing. Like, there's people that work with us that are younger than us, some of the videographers, some of the producers, and they'll ask, they'll be in the studio like, what did you mean when you said that? Then we break it down, might even require a Google search. They're like, oh, that's fire. And it's like, but to people our age, there's other people like, you ain't know
it's
that.
It's every day for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it starts with just sharing it and giving it a chance to be appreciated. But I think certain things are just generational. And I wish it wasn't as much of a divide, but at some point, technology is giving us all this access. It's also made certain things like relics or a wash or an afterthought because there's so much access to so much current, so many current things that is like, what incentivizes someone to look back? or to revisit.
It's interesting though because we still had a divide with our parents' music and respected it and loved it and enjoyed it. I didn't grow up listening to the Ozzy Brothers. My father was playing in the house or whoever from that era.
We didn't have Apple Music either, though. Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? I'm saying as a kid.
Right.
Well, not only that, though, I think one of the things that creates or kind of widens the barrier is a lot of times when older artists or older fans are trying to get the younger audience to understand or appreciate the value of an artist they may have grew up listening to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you're trying to make them become fans of it. And I think that's almost, like you said, they wasn't there. That's almost impossible. I think that's where the disconnect come for the most part. Like, instead of trying to make this person fall in love with NWA, you should be more so just trying to teach them, what came from NWA.
Okay.
Because I don't think there is a way for. I mean, you got to consider, them particularly. That's when you could curse on the radio.
Yeah.
That's before parental advisory stickers.
Well, there's two things though. They were cursing in their music, obviously, and they had the parental advisory, but they still weren't allowed to curse on the radio. Those hip hop wasn't even played on the radio the way it is today.
Right.
You might have got it on a mix show on a weekend,
Exactly,
and then you were going to hear an edited version.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
The times are extremely different. Like for them, I think the disconnect is when you're trying to make them become fans of it. Like,
Right.
You expecting, now he gonna go listen to NWA albums.
Right.
I think what they need from that, you kind of got to treat it like a history book. Like, hey, this is why there are parental advisory stickers.
Right.
You may not even notice parental advisory stickers. You don't, for you, that's always been on every album you've ever seen.
For sure.
But it came from somewhere. And,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. The thing is, treat it more, it is history.
Right.
So I think you got to kind of treat it like history and not like it's current. It's almost like, when it comes to movies, when, we watch readapt. Is that how you say that, readaptation?
Remakes. Yeah,
Right.
Remakes. Mhm.
And a lot of times we don't like the remakes, but we don't like the remakes because it's a movie we saw when we was 7.
Right.
Of course, we're not going to like the remake. This remake is only called a remake because we remember it. For our children, they don't know it was a different one. Like,
Yeah.
right, I got my daughter is turning 6 this year. She don't know about the original Lion King.
Mhm.
She know about the live action ones. Those are the ones that existed
That she grew
while
up with.
she existed. Right.
Makes sense.
So, I could play the original for her, but that's the point I'm making. Playing it for her so she know that exists versus playing it for her and trying to make her be a fan of the old one. I think that's where it kind of disconnect. Because, we people, and for the most part, you can't really control what you become a fan of.
For sure.
Because, I didn't like it because it was forced on me. I liked it because I liked whatever I
You
liked.
experienced it in real time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of experiencing in real time, you guys have Step Brothers for Life
Indeed.
about to come out. And one of the things I love about your current music is it gives me that vibe of kind of some of the things that we're talking about. The music is soulful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said when we started, like you guys are talking about things I know I can relate to just as a fan, you know what I mean? And here you are still doing it all these years later, and that's to be respected. You know what I'm saying? What has allowed you all to maintain and continue to work through all of these years when the genre has changed so much like we just mentioned?
I think the best tool or the biggest asset for us is staying true to ourselves. If you are yourself and you're comfortable within yourself, you will always be current. It's like just being present or oneness or a bunch of things I subscribe to and try to just bring into my everyday life. It converts into the artistry of it. It's like if I was rapping about the same things I was rapping about at 25, I'd be selling myself and my audience short.
Right.
Because it's not really my experience. Like versus, there are things that I'm rapping about now I could not have possibly rapped about then because it wasn't my reality.
Yeah, for sure.
True that.
And so I think that's part of what works for us is like leaning into that. I think rap coming up, rap was viewed as like a young man's game, young man's sport. It probably still is in a lot of spaces, but that's because we didn't have a 40-year-old rapper to look at that time. Like it was viewed as like you'd age yourself out of this. Versus at the time that I started rapping, there were rappers that was approaching that age range that was still flourishing, and I've seen rappers 10 years my senior have a second win, have a resurgence.
Absolutely.
And it's like, well, how do we can either become a relic, become a legacy artist, and just go out and play our music that we already have out there. But as creatives, in order for us to keep it going, it's not, I don't call it a reinventing ourselves. It's just presenting, the current form.
I love that. Yeah, I have that debate all the time because obviously from this conversation you can see like what I love, and the idea that you get to a certain age and you're supposed to get out the way. I always hated that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Why? You know what I'm saying?
Because
like,
it's not boxing. I didn't take a gazillion shots to my cranium, and and we got like a lifespan. I think even with that though, I think it all kind of boils down to you being comfortable with you. Because you look now, you got Will Smith just dropped a album. Well, I want to say he released it.
He did. Yep.
And that's a person who was a rapper well before I ever heard rap music. So I think that's like one of the key ingredients. You got to first be comfortable with who you are.
Yeah, I love it,
and stay sharp. I think that's the
true that.
That's
true
the
that.
other thing. Like some of my favorite artists reached a certain point where I didn't want to hear what they had to say anymore.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to hear that music, I'm gonna go back and listen to the older stuff because I feel like they may have lost some of that fire or sharpness to it. And it's like now you're kind of playing catch up to your former self. That's what I mean by staying sharp. Like one, I think you gotta know when enough's enough and leave it alone if that's the case. And or just sharpening your skill set. And that's a benefit of us working together is I think we keep each other on our toes.
Yeah.
Creatively.
Yeah, I like that,
True
man.
that.
All right, so y'all got the new project, man. Step Brothers for Life, May 9th is coming out.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? What should people know about that particular project, man? I know there's people that have been through 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what should they be looking forward to for 4?
For 4, I think one of the greatest things you'll receive or experience is growth. I think if you've been rocking with us since 1, 2, or 3, even if you just started at 3, or if you just started right now, I think it's evident, it's there, it's present that like he said, I can't rap about the same things I rapped about when I was in my 20s, and vice versa. I couldn't have gave you the this version of me in my 20s, and our music reflects that, and I think that's part of why we have the following we have is because even though we looked at as celebrities in some manner, our stories are still relatable because they are real stories.
Yeah.
And a lot of things I've been through, you've most likely been through yourself. And in some cases, in music, some of the things we speak about kind of taboo. You ain't really supposed to talk about what you really deal with. It's supposed to be all entertainment. And for us, it's entertainment, but it's therapy.
Yeah.
And, I think when you listen to For Life, you'll hear the growth from 3 to 4. And you might even fall in love with us all over again to find out that, you're not alone in whatever situation you might be, dealing with currently.
For sure.
Yeah, I think even the titling is almost like a double entendre of sorts. It's For Life in the sense it's the 4th installment, but it's For Life because it's life music. We're making music that's truly like a soundtrack to our lives. And the overlap, the album cover has all of our children present, like a family portrait, and it's the whole like human experience. in audio form and rap form. Like we're rapping about love, we're rapping about love loss, we're rapping about grief, we're rapping about like honest, like introspective things, our worldview of how like how we're viewed, you know, in the idea of my life, your entertainment, and because that's something that I think as a public figure, as an entertainer, that weighs on people. Like psychologically, you're being under a microscope, the world's a stage kind of thing, and not to mention everyone that's watching you is not necessarily cheering for you. It's you know it can become a spectacle all its own. We've got records. We got a record. We're talking to our younger selves. Like I said, on the introspective end, it's and still with all of that, we still do what we do as far as the back and forth. You know, playing off of each other lyrically, the fun, all over the place, like purist rap. You know, almost like just for the sake of a cipher. Just rap for rap's sake. Like we're rappers, and a rap purist will be able to appreciate this on a bar for bar level.
Yeah.
But we have records where we're talking about things, we're exploring emotions, giving you as much of a peek in as you could get without it being like the Truman Show, where where you're seeing everything in real time. It's very much curated, but it's real.
I appreciate y'all time, man. Thank y'all brothers for sitting down with me today, and hopefully somebody watching it will be able to do a little bit more when it comes to bridging that gap of what we've been talking about throughout this whole episode. So thank you so much, man. Y'all know what it is, man. It's going down. Don, Trip, Starlito, Step Brothers for life.
Indeed,
all right?
indeed.
Make sure y'all rock with it and check it out, man. These brothers are talented. It's The Bridge, Kyle Santillian.